I have indeed waited 10 years to play this game. I considered buying a PlayStation in the past just so I could play these hugely popular games like God of War and The Last of Us. But luckily, we PC gamers are slowly getting remastered versions of these games over time. I just wish they got released quicker. Firstly, welcome to my review of The Last of Us Part 1 Remastered for PC. If you find this video helpful to your life in any way, or maybe you're just feeling generous, please leave a like and subscribe for future content. Thank you. Okay, so let's get into it. Having heard so much positive buzz about this game for the last 10 years, and then being recently treated to a fantastic TV adaptation courtesy of HBO, I was sensibly hyped and ready to get stuck into this game. So, just to address the elephant in the room, there were some PC port issues like waiting 20 minutes for the shaders to load in the main menu before we could even play, and frequent crashes which have caused the game, I believe, to plummet into negative review scores on Steam. I was, however, able to stop the crashing once I turned off DLSS and just played at native resolution. So with that said, let's review the game for what it is, rather than any launch issues that no doubt will be resolved soon. Although I had some idea on how the story would go after watching the TV series, I didn't exactly know much about the gameplay and combat. From the very start, you are thrust into the transition period from normality to a post-apocalyptic world, initially through the eyes of Sarah Miller, Joel's daughter. As you awake to the world pretty much ending outside your house, you must explore and try to make sense of what's going on. For the first 10 minutes, it explodes with a mixture of cinematics and gameplay which had me constantly engaged by all the events unfolding before my eyes and completely invested in the three characters we start with, Joel, Sarah and Joel's brother Tommy. As they try to escape the surrounding insanity, it ultimately ends up at a pivotal point in Joel's story as he sadly loses his daughter to, let's just say, military orders about how the government decided to quarantine the spores outbreak and the people they were willing to sacrifice. I gotta say, the end of the prologue was quite emotional, especially after only just meeting these characters. So great writing so far, as it stayed this way for the rest of the game. By the way, please let me know in the comments, what on earth was all the controversy involving the sequel all about? Was it poor writing decisions or simply the loss of a certain main character? Let me know, because I have no idea.
Copy that. You, take out the door. You, with me.
Yes, sir.
Anyway, it all felt very real and intense in the way the human and infected interactions played out. Things happen fast with sometimes no time to react, let alone process the chaos around me. It felt like a well-crafted movie, and I can see how and why HBO borrowed heavily from the game when making the show. And I was blown away by the graphics. The attention to detail with the creature and level designs must have been something else back in 2013. But after a few different remastered versions bringing us to 2023, as it's my first time playing, it might as well be a brand new game. Also, a definite mention needs to be said about the lighting. HDR can be hit or miss in a lot of modern games, but the colours are brought to life fantastically, adding so much flavour to the level design for both night and day environments. Okay, so let's talk gameplay. I chose to play on hard, which isn't the hardest setting. There were two more above that, but I felt for my first experience I'd pick something, sensible. At least I have the perfect excuse to play again with too high difficulties to try my luck at. As you start to progress through objectives and the story unfolds, the game does a great job at making you feel like it's an open world. Don't get me wrong, I realise this is a very linear game, but the scenery is just incredible as you make your path through a very huge city with patches of woodlands and overgrown urban areas. No area was ever identical to the place before and remained fresh throughout. What struck me pretty early on and made me love the game even more was that resources such as ammo, materials for crafting and parts for upgrading weapons were pretty scarce. This made me think twice about how I treated every encounter with human and infected enemies.
Shit. Go.
I would say in most cases I went with a stealth approach, enabling me to conserve resources, for a harder challenge ahead. I'm an absolute loot goblin when it comes to most games that allow you to manage your inventory in such a fashion, so I wasn't taking any chances in this game. There was nothing more satisfying than saving up to craft Molotov cocktails and then throwing a bottle to distract enemies into one spot to all be burnt alive with a single Molotov. The backpack functionality and weapon cross pop-up were straightforward and simple to use when crafting or changing weapons. It took me a little practice to swap out weapons during a fight, as most other games give you a better chance by slowing down time, affording you time to choose your weapon and decide what to do. But here it's all real time, and good for them I say. It'll sharpen my reactions and make me a better player. For a game that has a very limited amount of enemy types, it uses them damn effectively, making you respect each enemy as the game creates tension and scares consistently in each encounter. All enemies are instantly recognisable upon encountering them, so it's well worth taking the time to formulate a plan of who to kill first and how. This is fine until the moment you slip up, forcing you to sometimes drastically re-evaluate how to progress. The infected enemies are made up of runners, clickers, stalkers and bloaters that I've seen so far. Some you can tackle with stealth, and others, well, you just gotta make sure you have enough ammo to survive the fight. The human enemies have a smarter AI than I've experienced in most games, as they flank or retreat and sometimes call for help, which makes every bit of combat a little more dynamic compared to similar games on the market that also have the cover and fire fighting styles. Speaking of using cover, they implemented this pretty well, as I found with other games like Deus Ex, where you use a key to snap to cover and then release from cover. Got pretty tiresome. With this game you can freely move in and out of cover. There were definitely moments when I decided to completely abandon stealth and just blast my foes with whatever weapons I had. This never got old, as the gory death animations were thrilling to behold and so much fun. From handguns to rifles and even bombs, the real standout was the shotgun for me. If you managed to contain the spread well enough, it would absolutely result in dismemberment and a perfect one-shot kill. I absolutely loved exploring all the locations and buildings this journey takes you through. Albeit a set path, it still felt large enough to feel like a big open world adventure. Some moments were cramped and claustrophobic, which actually reminded me of the Metro game series, as you're passing through broken walls or train carriages while scanning everywhere for precious loot with your trusty torch. Fond memories.
Jesus! Watch it. Help me. My mask broke. Don't leave me to turn.
And I gotta say, the fighting was not overdone. It was just carefully placed here and there between pockets of exploration, allowing a little downtime and a chance to replenish supplies for the next battle. The list of skill upgrades is subtle and not overkill. You have the standard don't leave home without it health upgrades, and the rest simply make your actions in combat a little bit smoother. As the story progresses, you get to meet a lot of interesting characters on the way. Some are only in passing, but the focus is on the relationship between Joel and Ellie mainly. Everything hinges on this, and thankfully Naughty Dog pulled this off so well.
What are you doing?
Killing time.
Well, what am I supposed to do?
I am sure you will figure that out.
Ellie's personality is as close to real, honest and magnetic as I've ever witnessed from a character in a game before, with the exception of the Baron from The Witcher 3, of course. That truly was a well-written and voiced NPC. But partnered with Joel's gruff-sounding and very capable protector/mentor role, the two offer a great dynamic, providing plenty of emotion and ultimately a huge justification for seeing this journey through to the very end. There are so many post-apocalyptic games and movies out there by now. It struck me how the use of cordyceps is such an interesting take on the zombie genre. Knowing that this is a very real fungus that thankfully only attacks the neural network of a small number of insects adds something extra creepy and visceral to the game. It almost feels like a disgusting violation of your biology rather than a fictional virus that doesn't make any sense. Although having not finished the game yet, I get the sense that moral choices are slightly out the window, as so far all the humans trying to kill us are doing so for bad reasons, and I have never felt any lack of justification for killing everything in sight. I'd be very interested to know from you guys if the game has multiple endings based on moral choices you did in the game.
I ain't buying it. Oh, shit. Tess, run. Run!
Go! Go! Move!
And lastly, of course, this game has a beautiful music score like all of the most highly respected AAA titles. Using the same opening score for both the game and the TV adaptation was a really nice touch. It's also worth a mention that the composer Gustavo Santaolalla also wrote some of the music for Narcos Mexico, as I thought it sounded familiar. So after waiting and almost forgetting about this game for so long, I'm very glad I got to play it now and will happily give it a 10 out of 10 for what it is and what it accomplishes. I think some of my favourite games will always be open world RPGs like The Witcher 3 and Red Dead, but I do love to just relax and sink hours into these set path but heavily storied titles too. I do hope we don't have to wait too long before they release a sequel to PC, as I know I'm going to be pretty desperate to play it soon. Well, that's all for now, you fine folks, and thanks for watching. Please leave a like, and don't forget to take it easy. See you next time.
Panic spread worldwide after a leaked report from the World Health Organization showed that the latest vaccination tests have failed.
With the bureaucrats out of power,